Organized crime in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, originated or consolidated due to three main factors. One was the rapid urbanization process in Brazil during the later half of the 20th century. Brazil urbanized quite quickly, and that overwhelmed local authorities. Public services were not coping. The second issue is the combination of poverty and marginalization. A lot of this urbanization translated into sprawling or hillside slums in which thousands of people were living. And these slums, of course, are still present in Rio de Janeiro. And the third factor was that during the 1980s, the international or transnational cocaine industry became quite strong coming out of Colombia with the Medellin cartel. And the drug trafficking organizations in Rio profited a lot from that. Foremost among these gangs or criminal organizations was one called the Red Command. So it originated in a prison in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro state, and learned some techniques from left-wing guerrilla members that were imprisoned in the same environment as they were. So they learned a lot of organizational skills, tactics, even some guerrilla tactics from these political militia or guerrilla organizations. That in itself would not have been sufficient, perhaps, for these criminal organizations to pose a significant threat to the state authority in Rio. However, in combination with the other drivers, such as urbanization, these marginalized territories, they were able to occupy many of these territories in order to establish drug trafficking operations. Territory serves a very important role for these criminal organizations because it serves as a hub for many illicit economies, such as drug trafficking, but also extortion. They are havens from state authorities. It's very difficult for the state and its law enforcement institutions to go into these favelas because they are very densely occupied. They are unmapped many times. They are very hillside and very tactically difficult for military and police forces to occupy. So they established these havens, these sort of non-state enclaves in these urban marginalized territories from which they operate and directly challenge state authority. When the police tries to enter these territories, many times they are met with heavy fire. These criminal organizations and some militias that originated in recent years have acquired very heavy armament, heavy caliber weapons, and the police itself sort of followed this militarization by enforcing very militarized tactics. And it's common now in Rio to see clashes, armed clashes between the police or between gangs and other gangs, rival gangs, for control or for authority in these urban spaces. It's common to see from the police side even the use of helicopters, armored vehicles, heavy caliber weapons. So it became a very militarized situation that is almost entirely driven by criminal organizations that have no political or ideological aims, but that have imposed this sort of non-state territories inside Rio de Janeiro, especially in the slums. So it has become a very militarized situation, and authorities continue to struggle with the ongoing violence and problems in governing these territories.